In mid-March of the year 2021, the quiet suburban air of Rio Grande, California, fills with the mechanical hum of ground-penetrating radar. Investigators execute a search warrant at the residential property of Ruben Flores. For 25 years, dark suspicions have surrounded this unassuming family home regarding the fate of a missing college freshman. Detectives direct their meticulous attention toward the back of the house, focusing specifically on the wooden latticework enclosing the space beneath an elevated backyard deck. Forensic archaeologists dismantle the barrier and crawl into the damp, shadowed earth below. Digging down through layers of compacted dirt, they uncover a distinct 4 by 6 foot soil anomaly resting in the darkness. Within this precise rectangular space, the soil reveals an odd oval-shaped discoloration unlike the surrounding natural earth. Specialists recognize this chemical shadow as the classic signature of a human form that was once buried and later removed. Radar technology had already flagged this exact location as a subsurface disturbance days prior to the physical dig. It takes several subsequent days of methodical excavation and laboratory analysis for investigators to conclude that someone dug the soil out and packed it back in long after the original burial. This chilling physical discovery finally breaks a quarter-century of agonizing silence. The empty grave points directly to a man who had hidden a terrible secret in plain sight since the spring of 1996. In the sun-drenched spring of 1996, 19-year-old Kristen Smart is wrapping up her freshman year at California Polytechnic State University in the coastal town of San Luis Obispo. The university campus serves as an idyllic, picturesque haven nestled against rolling green hills and wide California skies. Students view the grounds as a secure environment where they routinely leave their dormitory doors unlocked without a second thought. Kristen stands at 6 feet and 1 inch tall, possessing a vibrant, outgoing personality that draws people into her orbit. She carries a deep devotion to her tight-knit family living several hours away in the Central Valley city of Stockton. Her daily routine centers around navigating the typical freshman experience while anticipating the upcoming summer vacation. She works a part-time job as a lifeguard at the campus recreation center, spending hours by the water she loves so much. Outside of her classes and aquatic duties, Kristen focuses on establishing her newfound independence and socializing with friends in the Muir Hall dormitory community. She calls her parents to share mundane details of her busy days, keeping her family anchored in her college life. The California Polytechnic community feels like a perfect protective incubator for young adults finding their way in the world. There is no indication whatsoever that this welcoming coastal community harbors any hidden dangers beneath its pristine surface. The architectural layout of the student housing creates a dense network of brick buildings, winding concrete pathways, and manicured lawns designed to foster student interaction. Muir Hall sits among these dormitories, serving as the central hub of Kristen's daily social existence. Her roommate, Crystal Calvin, shares the small, functional living space where Kristen keeps her cherished personal belongings and family photographs. On the Friday evening of Memorial Day weekend, the campus empties out slightly as many students travel home for the long holiday break. Kristen decides to stay behind, expecting a joyful night out to celebrate a close friend's birthday at an off-campus gathering. She selects her outfit for the evening, leaving her keys, wallet, and identification cards locked inside her dormitory room. The decision to leave her valuables behind demonstrates her intention to return safely to Muir Hall before the night ends. She walks out of the heavy glass doors of her building and steps into the warm spring evening air. The glow of sodium streetlights illuminates the paved walkways leading away from the familiar safety of the university grounds. Kristen expects nothing more than a few hours of music, laughter, and camaraderie with her fellow students. She has absolutely no way of knowing that her routine walk off the university property will initiate one of the state's most agonizing and enduring mysteries. On the night of May 24th, transitioning into the early morning hours of May 25th, 1996, the relaxed holiday atmosphere shifts toward a localized focal point at an off-campus fraternity party. The house sits roughly a mile away from the Central University dormitories, separated by darkened residential streets and uneven sidewalks. Throughout the loud, crowded gathering, Kristen consumes a significant amount of alcohol, eventually becoming incapacitated. Observers notice a fellow freshman named Paul Flores hovering near Kristen throughout the night. At one point during the chaotic evening, witnesses observe Flores falling to the floor alongside Kristen in a clumsy display of physical interaction. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, the cold night air settles over the neighborhood as the party begins to clear out. Fellow students find Kristen passed out on a damp neighboring lawn, unable to navigate the dark walk back to the campus on her own. Two students, Cheryl Anderson and Tim Davis, step forward to assist the disoriented young woman to her feet. They grip her arms and begin the arduous trek back toward the safety of the California Polytechnic housing complex. Suddenly, Paul Flores emerges from the shadows of the street and inserts himself into the small group. He offers his physical assistance, positioning himself close to Kristen as they move toward the distant campus lights. The quartet navigates the quiet, dim streets connecting the off-campus neighborhoods to the main university entrances. The physical geography of the campus forces the students to part ways as they approach their respective housing blocks. Tim Davis reaches the turnoff for his specific building first, stepping away from the group and leaving Anderson and Flores to support Kristen. Soon after, the remaining trio arrives at an intersection of pathways located a short distance from Muir Hall and Santa Lucia Hall. Cheryl Anderson, feeling the fatigue of the late hour, breaks off to head toward her own designated dormitory building. She hesitates briefly but ultimately leaves Flores alone with the incapacitated Kristen, trusting him to complete the final leg of the journey. The distance from this specific intersection to Kristen's door measures only a few dozen yards along a paved walkway. Flores later claims to investigators that he walked her as far as the entrance to her dormitory. According to his official statement, he then peeled off and walked to his own assigned room in Santa Lucia Hall. The heavy metallic click of the dormitory doors closing in the night marks the last theoretical moment anyone accounts for her whereabouts. The historical timeline fractures in this exact shadowed space between the concrete pathways and the dormitory entrances. Kristen vanishes into the night, never to be seen alive by her friends, her family, or her classmates again. The immediate aftermath of that night unfolds with a creeping sense of dread as the weekend progresses. By Sunday, Kristen fails to contact her family in Stockton for their pre-arranged weekly telephone call. Her mother waits by the phone, feeling a sharp, intuitive spike of panic when the agreed-upon hour passes in total silence. Back on campus, Kristen's roommate, Crystal Calvin, returns to Muir Hall and notices a concerning stillness in their shared space. Crystal scans the room and observes that none of Kristen's essential belongings are missing from their usual places. Kristen's keys, wallet, and identification card sit untouched, locked inside the room exactly where she left them on Friday evening. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Crystal reports her roommate missing to the California Polytechnic Campus Police Department. This initial report should trigger an immediate campus-wide emergency protocol to locate a vulnerable young woman. Instead, the formal notification initiates a cascade of infuriating systemic failures and mishandled jurisdictional protocols. The campus authorities possess a specific legal mandate to investigate occurrences strictly within the university property lines. They treat the report with bureaucratic indifference, assuming the 19-year-old simply left on an impromptu Memorial Day trip. This fatal institutional assumption allows critical forensic time to slip away while a predator begins concealing his permanent crime. The initial investigation into the missing student suffers catastrophic delays due to rigid bureaucratic protocols governing the university grounds. The campus police department operates under a strict jurisdictional mandate limited exclusively to the geographical boundaries of the school property. The local municipal officers of the San Luis Obispo Police Department hold authority starting precisely at the edge of the campus sidewalks. This invisible administrative line creates a fatal communication gap during the most critical 48 hours of the search. Campus officials classified the disappearance as a routine, low-priority absence, generating minimal paperwork while treating the incident as an impromptu holiday trip. Kristen's frantic parents drive down from the city of Stockton, arriving to find a staggering lack of institutional urgency. Investigators refuse to secure the Muir Hall dormitory, allowing students and staff to walk freely through potential zones of interest. This institutional assumption allows the perpetrator a massive window of unmonitored time to conceal the physical evidence of his actions. Vital clues dissipate into the coastal air, while the official response remains tangled in a web of jurisdictional disputes. The fractured system protects the predator, granting him the freedom to establish his alibi while the trail goes cold. By the time higher-level county investigators take control of the file, the pristine forensic window has permanently shattered. Days after the disappearance, regional detectives initiate a formal interview with Paul Flores regarding his actions on that Friday night. The investigators place Flores inside a sterile interview room, observing his physical demeanor and cataloging his statements. A prominent dark bruise surrounds his right eye, serving as a glaring physical anomaly requiring an immediate explanation. Flores attributes the facial injury to a stray elbow received during an aggressive pickup basketball game. Detectives deploy resources to track down the other participants of this specific sporting event to verify the timeline. The individuals on the court provide statements contradicting the alibi, noting that Flores arrived at the game already bearing the dark bruise. Confronted with this glaring discrepancy, Flores alters his narrative, claiming he struck his head on the steering wheel of a vehicle while performing mechanical repairs. The shifting explanations signal a desperate attempt to explain away defensive wounds inflicted during a hidden struggle. Despite these obvious red flags, the legal threshold for an arrest requires concrete physical evidence or a definitive crime scene. The justice system demands probable cause tied to specific physical elements, which remain entirely absent from the active file. Without a physical body or a localized area of violence, the strict legal framework forces detectives to let their primary suspect walk out of the station doors. A massive procedural dead end materializes when investigators attempt to examine room number 128 inside Santa Lucia Hall. The physical geography of this specific dormitory room positions it at the end of a long concrete corridor. Bureaucratic delays prevent law enforcement from locking down the space immediately following the initial missing person report. The university maintenance staff, adhering to their routine end-of-year schedule, enters the room to prepare the space for incoming summer programs. Janitorial workers deploy heavy industrial chemicals, scrubbing the floors and sanitizing the furniture long before forensic technicians arrive. Weeks later, specialized search handlers bring 4 distinct canines trained to detect human decomposition into the building. The handlers lead the animals down the corridor, allowing them to survey the space without any prior knowledge of the room assignments. All 4 separate dogs independently target room number 128, displaying precise alert behaviors on the left side of a specific mattress. The alert provides a profound psychological breakthrough. Yet the earlier chemical cleaning destroys the microscopic physical evidence required for a laboratory confirmation. Defense attorneys weaponize this broken chain of custody, arguing the room decontamination renders the canine alerts legally inadmissible in court. The failure to secure the door on day 1 creates a devastating legal shield. nullifying the most compelling piece of physical direction the detectives possess. The investigation stalls against a wall of calculated silence as Flores exploits powerful constitutional protections to halt all legal momentum. The Smart family initiates civil lawsuits against the suspect, utilizing the civil court process to compel him into formal depositions. Flores sits inside Sparrow legal conference rooms, facing the grieving parents and their attorneys across polished wooden tables, to every single procedural question regarding his actions. He mechanically invokes his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. The rigid rules of the American justice system transform this silence into an impenetrable fortress, preventing attorneys from extracting a single factual detail. Shielded by this constitutional loophole, Flores physically relocates down the California coast to the dense urban environment of Lawndale. He blends seamlessly into the bustling population of Southern California, securing mundane employment and hiding behind the mask of a normal, unremarkable citizen. The perpetrator walks the streets, frequents local businesses, and lives a life completely free of immediate consequences. The Smart family endures unrelenting psychological torture, forced to watch their daughter's tormentor navigate society without facing any criminal charges. The file transitions into a dormant state inside the archives of the sheriff's department, gathering dust while the perpetrator thrives in plain sight. Law enforcement officials possess the administrative knowledge of his guilt, but the lack of a physical body blocks any pathway to a formal indictment. The stagnant dynamics of the case shift violently in September of the year 2019 through the actions of an external investigator. A local journalist and audio documentarian named Chris Lambert launches a meticulous, serialized broadcast titled Your Own Backyard. Lambert bypasses the official police summaries, choosing instead to reconstruct the exact historical timeline using primary source documents. He maps out the precise geographical routes connecting the off-campus fraternity house to the intersections outside Muir Hall. The journalist tracks down former students and peripheral neighbors whom the initial campus police dragnet completely ignored in the spring of 1996. These newly recorded interviews reveal a pattern of predatory behavior and highlight the staggering administrative failures of the university authorities. The audio series broadcasts to a massive global audience, generating an unprecedented wave of intense public scrutiny directed at the dormant file. The surrounding community demands absolute accountability, shifting immense political pressure directly onto the administration of the San Luis Obispo County Sheriff's Office. Citizens flood the communication lines of the department, demanding modern analytical resources be applied to the old evidence boxes. This overwhelming external force breaks the bureaucratic inertia, compelling the current sheriff to dedicate a specialized task force to the old leads. The power of focused investigative journalism shatters the decades of silence, forcing the justice system to turn its full attention back to the primary suspect. Armed with the renewed public testimony and modernized geographical mapping, investigators petition a superior court judge for electronic surveillance warrants. The legal authorization allows detectives to intercept the active communication lines connecting Paul Flores in Southern California to his family members. The primary focus centers on phone calls placed to his father Ruben Flores, who resides in the quiet suburban neighborhood of Arroyo Grande. The physical distance between the son's apartment in Lawndale and the father's residential property spans over 150 miles. Surveillance teams record cryptic, highly guarded conversations between the two men regarding the surging public interest and the podcast episodes. Audio analysts isolate specific phrases indicating the family shares a deep, urgent concern about renewed physical searches of their properties. Detectives cross-reference these intercepted anxieties with the historical land records of the father's house located on White Court. They realized the father and son maintained absolute unbroken control over this specific plot of suburban land since the exact week of the disappearance. The investigators synthesized the canine alerts from the dormitory, the shifting alibets, and the intercepted phone calls into a single, cohesive geographical theory. The focus tightens entirely on the soil beneath the Arroyo Grande house, prompting law enforcement to draft a comprehensive search warrant for the property. The intricate web of electronic surveillance and historical research sets the definitive stage for a physical excavation of the family domain. The final phase of the search converges on a specific patch of earth located at 710 White Court in the city of Arroyo Grande. The physical layout of this suburban property features a sprawling backyard, enclosed by a wooden fence and anchored by a large elevated deck. For 24 years, the Flores family utilized this specific outdoor space to host neighborhood gatherings, holiday meals, and casual weekend events. Guests stood on the sturdy wooden planks, holding drinks and conversing in total ignorance of the subterranean nightmare resting inches beneath their feet. In the spring of 2021, forensic technicians shatter this illusion of suburban normalcy by dismantling the wooden barriers. The specialists crawl into the damp-shadowed space and document a distinct spatial anomaly hidden in the dirt. They map a precise rectangular depression measuring 4 feet wide by 6 feet long. They extract core samples from the discolored earth and transport the material to advanced laboratory facilities for chemical analysis. Scientists test the deep soil deposits and detect the undeniable presence of human hemoglobin. The microscopic results confirm a staggering reality. The father and son concealed the young victim beneath the family home for decades before disturbing the earth a second time to remove her. The predator hid his terrible secret in plain sight, standing above the physical proof of his actions. The catalyst for this invasive property search stems from intercepted audio communications gathered in the winter of 2020. Investigators sit in sterile listening rooms, monitoring the active telephone lines connecting the suspect to his parents. A crucial conversation takes place in January between Paul Flores and his mother, Susan Flores. The recorded dialogue reveals a profound sense of panic regarding the renewed public scrutiny generated by the independent audio documentary. Susan instructs her son to remain vigilant, referencing the potential for law enforcement to secure search warrants for the family properties. Detectives interpret the guarded language as an explicit confirmation of their geographical theories. This critical error in judgment provides the task force with the exact leverage needed to breach the gates of the Arroyo Grande residence. Armed with the soil analysis and the intercepted audio, police execute synchronized arrest warrants in April of 2021. Tactical teams surround the home in Arroyo Grande, placing Ruben Flores in handcuffs as an accessory to the hidden crime. Simultaneous law enforcement units apprehend Paul Flores in Southern California, pulling the primary suspect out of his deceptive everyday life. The coordinated strike dismantles the impenetrable wall of silence the family maintained since the spring of 1996. The arrests signal the end of an agonizing wait, bringing a notorious predator out of the shadows and into the harsh light of the justice system. The prosecution builds a formidable circumstantial timeline to explain the fatal sequence of events inside the Santa Lucia Hall dormitory. The physical distance between the hallway intersection and room number 128 measures a mere 50 steps. Prosecutors present the theory that Paul Flores utilized this short walk to isolate the incapacitated young woman inside his assigned living quarters. The state argues he initiated a severe physical assault, resulting in a fatal encounter that ended the promising life of the vibrant college freshman. Confronted with a deceased student in his room, the predator contacted his father to navigate the catastrophic aftermath. The chronological reconstruction suggests Ruben Flores traveled to the campus under the cover of darkness to extract the victim from the school grounds. The two men loaded her into a vehicle and drove her out of the university limits, bypassing the sleeping community of San Luis Obispo. They transported her to the White Court residence, burying her within the deep soil beneath the wooden deck structure. In court, prosecutors weave together the historical canine alerts, the fresh Hamilovan soil tests, and the intercepted phone calls into a devastating web of guilt. The attorneys present a clear, undeniable picture of a family working in unison to deny a grieving mother and father the truth. The intricate puzzle pieces connect across 2 decades of systemic failures, forming a narrative the defense struggles to dismantle. The jury absorbs the full magnitude of the deception, staring at a man who believed his intellect surpassed the capabilities of the entire justice system. The quest for moral justice culminates on October 18, 2022, inside a tense, crowded courtroom. The complex nature of the charges requires the rare use of 2 separate juries to evaluate the actions of the father and the son. The jury assigned to Paul Flores returns from their secluded deliberation room to deliver a definitive historical verdict. The 4-person reads the decision, finding the defendant guilty of the ultimate crime in the first degree. The pronouncement shatters 26 years of evasion, branding the arrogant predator as a convicted felon for the rest of his days. The parallel jury evaluating the actions of Ruben Flores reaches a different legal conclusion regarding the accessory charges. They issue a verdict of not guilty for the aging patriarch, citing a lack of physical proof tying him to the actual relocation of the victim. This partial acquittal highlights the frustrating reality of the rigid legal framework where reasonable doubt shields a man from a prison cell. The criminal justice system clears the father of formal charges, but the agonizing trial leaves a dark, inescapable stain on the family legacy. The local community views the White Court property as a monument to deception, ostracizing the individuals who maintained the cruel silence. The primary guilty verdict provides an immense validation for the tireless advocates who refuse to let the case fade into obscurity. The final legal chapter unfolds on March 10, 2023, during a solemn, emotional sentencing hearing. Judge Jennifer O'Keefe presides over the gallery, staring down the man who stole a vibrant future from an innocent college student. The judge delivers a stern, unyielding condemnation of the predatory actions and the decades of psychological torture inflicted upon the survivors. She imposes the maximum allowable penalty, ordering Paul Flores to serve 25 years to life in the state penitentiary. The heavy strike of the wooden gavel echoes through the chamber, symbolizing the absolute triumph of persistence over calculated evasion. The mandate guarantees the perpetrator will trade his unrestricted freedom for a confined concrete cell monitored by armed guards. The justice system corrects the catastrophic institutional failures of the 1990s by confining the Breder inside a maximum security facility. Defense attorneys initiate desperate appeals, seeking a new trial through technical legal loopholes and procedural complaints. The appellate courts process these filings, yet the foundational guilt established by the forensic soil evidence remains an immovable mountain. The structural integrity of the prosecution ensures the predator stays in a cage, stripped of his arrogant belief in his own superiority. The impact of heavy steel doors seals his fate behind high stone walls, ending his reign of silent terror. For the grieving family from the city of Stockton, the historic verdict brings a profound, agonizing sense of legal closure. The parents spent 26 years fighting against a broken administrative system, navigating a maze of jurisdictional errors and ignored red flags. Their relentless advocacy transformed a botched campus investigation into a national crusade for accountability and truth. The conviction validates their unwavering intuition, proving to the world that their daughter fell victim to a calculated predator. Despite the immense victory in the courtroom, the physical traces of the young woman elude recovery, leaving a massive, painful void in their daily lives. The absence of a physical form denies the family the basic human right of laying their beloved child to rest in a peaceful, designated sanctuary. Law enforcement officials maintain an active, open file regarding the specific location of the concealed evidence. Task force members vow to continue the geographical search, determined to bring the innocent student home for a proper, dignified burial. The tragic saga serves as a chilling reminder of the monsters hiding behind ordinary suburban facades. The enduring legacy of this case stands as a testament to the power of community action, unyielding journalistic pressure, and the triumph of absolute truth. The blinding light of justice pierces the California fog, illuminating the deep shadows where a predator considered himself untouchable.